Aries, in 2025's astrology, we've got an eclipse in your sign. We've got two of the outer planets entering your sign, which means there are more than your fair share of shifts, changes, and blessings ahead for your sign. Hi, my name is Haley Comet, and welcome to my Cosmic Corner of the Internet, where we discuss all things astrology, and today, all things 12 Days of Cosmos Aries 2025 edition. What will come up within your chart and thus within your universe this year, and how it is that you can co-create with these celestial cycles and rhythms. How it is that you can learn from the astrology and what it is bringing up within your chart. How it is that you can seize opportunity and navigate through some of the cosmic challenges. If you have prominent Aries energy alive within your birth chart. I am so excited to be bringing back my 12 Days of Cosmos series. Aries, of course, you had to be first this year. Firstly, because you do have a very eventful year of astrology. We will of course get into it. And also because last year you guys were actually the final forecast that I had uploaded. I'm truly surprised to know that I still have some Aries subscribers after I pulled that one. I mean, you guys are the first sign of the zodiac and I put you guys last, but we had to write the order, of course, when it comes to 2025's astrology. You guys are first up and you all are stepping into a major year of astrology, not just for you, but also for the collective. So to familiarize you with the series, I absolutely recommend listening to your rising sign. That will be the most accurate forecast and the most accurate snapshot of the year that you are stepping into and the real life external events that will come about. I also recommend listening to your sun sign forecast. I utilize solar houses, so I do believe your sun sign forecast can also be applicable, perhaps just to a lesser degree than your rising sign. Now, because you are first up, the Aries forecast is likely the only one posted at this particular moment, but do know throughout the rest of December on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I'll be posting the rest of the signs. So you can get caught up on your other signs, your friend and family signs. Make sure to subscribe so that you're notified for that. And you are welcome to listen to your other placements if you'd like to consider it through a transit perspective, but rising and sun would be the absolute forecast that I would recommend listening to. And just in case this is your first time within my Cosmic Corner, hi, my name is Haley Comet, so lovely to have you here. Something that you need to know about me and my channel is that I'm super passionate about not just telling you about the astrology, but empowering you with astrology. How it is that you can work with these celestial themes. And I do that within my all sign forecast as well as within my weekly horoscope series, Magic Monday. So if that sort of co-creative cosmic approach resonates with you, it would mean so much to me if you would consider subscribing. But any nudge of engagement is so appreciative if even in small ways this forecast makes you feel a little bit more prepared stepping into next year's astrology, a little bit more inspired stepping into next year's astrology, a little bit more empowered stepping into next year's astrology. But without further ado, Aries, you and I have a lot to discuss, so let's go ahead and take it into the Aries 2025 forecast. A Star is Born. So when it comes to painting the picture around the energies that you are stepping into next year, I like to firstly call upon a defining transit. And essentially this is a transit that when you think back, when you frame 2025 within your memory, you'll think of it as the year, oh, that was the year that Saturn and Neptune were in Aries. Typically, I just call upon one particular transit, but both of these are of equal importance. So Aries, you have two defining transits of the year. So let's break it down, both each of these individually and then what it means that there is a bit of a fusion between the two. And that could get a little complicated because, as you will soon find out by my detailing them, these are two very different planets and they're both in your sign. Now, what's important to keep in mind about both of these planets is that they're not settling in for the long haul. They both enter into your sign, they stick their toe in, they dabble, and then they retrograde back. So there's a little bit of back and forth, which you could also feel alive within your universe. So let's start with Saturn. So Saturn will be in Pisces for a majority of the year. Saturn enters Aries May 24th, and it will stay until September 1st. Saturn will only cover 2 degrees of Aries, 0 degrees of Aries, and 1 degree of Aries. So if you have any Aries placements within your chart that are at 0 degrees or 1 degrees, you will have a Saturn conjunction. And even though this transit itself is brief and it's covering such a small slice of the Aries territory of the sky, it is significant. It's worth noting that when planets dance from Pisces to Aries as they're doing this year, it is this conclusion energy. Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac. Your sign, Aries, is the first sign of the zodiac. This is new beginnings energy. This channel is called Haley Comet Astrology. It's not called Haley Comet Numerology. I'm not a numerologist necessarily, but it is worth noting that the year 2025 is a 9 year, which in numerology is associated with closure and completion. And I think 2 planets leaving Pisces, the final sign of the zodiac, and entering Aries also signals this energy of things coming full circle and being able to release and let go in order to step into the new horizons within our world, initiate the next chapter of our world fearlessly. And I do feel, Aries, that you will play a role within that. It's kind of like way shower energy when I think about 2025's astrology, as we have so many of the outer planets, which are slow to move and rare to change signs, entering new territories of the sky. We are all collectively and individually moving into chapters of our life that can feel very unfamiliar, and it does require quite a bit of courage. Luckily, that is a trait that you have in spades. Having prominent Aries energy within your chart. And that courage is going to be important, not just for your journey, but also to help empower and way show for others potentially. Because with Saturn entering your sign, it does bring a higher level of responsibility, and a responsibility that you could potentially feel burdened by. You might find that from May through September, which for me here in the Northern Hemisphere would be spring and summer, you might find that that slice of 2025, there are new responsibilities placed on you. You could arise to a new level of leadership. There could be new levels of challenges that require you to step into your courage, to step into your fearlessness. When Saturn's in your sign, from a house perspective, this means that it is activating your first house, which is the territory of your chart that governs self, identity, and appearance. And so you can find that from May to September, you do have a more serious lease on life. Again, you're the first sign of the zodiac. You'll always have that kind of youthful, playful, light vibe about you. But you might find that midway this year, you're looking out at the world with a little bit of heaviness or a little bit more intentionality, thinking more so around the long term and how it is that you can start new beginnings that will favor well within the long term. When we think about Aries energy, it is around newness, novelty. It's the first sign of the zodiac. And so both within your world as an Aries, as well as within the collective, just stepping into so much Aries energy, there could be a call to step into new horizons, to envision new possibilities. You could be a bit of a way shower within that process, showing others what it means to live and lead with courage and authenticity, and honestly, a bit of fearlessness. It could just be by you embodying this Aries energy, it could empower others to step into their authenticity, to step into their fearlessness, to step into their courage. But with Saturn in your sign, this may feel like a burden to you. You know, when Saturn's in our sign, oftentimes we can arise to a new level of responsibility. We oftentimes have to be a lot more disciplined. We have to think more long term. We can arise to a new level of leadership within our lives, which, yes, can be exciting, like climbing to new heights, but it also comes with more pressure. It also comes with a need for more boundaries, for more structure. It's worth noting that when Saturn is in your sign midway this year, it is not in territory it likes to be in. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It's the spark of life. And being the first sign of the zodiac, it tends to be quite impatient, which, again, I'm so sorry that I made your guys' signs horoscope last year. Hopefully this makes up for it this year, having you guys first, as you should be. This can be a more impatient sign. They like things to happen quickly. When they want something, they go out and get it. Saturn moves differently because Saturn is about time. Saturn is about delayed gratification. So these energies are not compatible. Saturn is in its fall in the sign Aries. And so you may find that midway this year, you do feel very tested. There could be responsibilities, obligations that are testing you. There could be a promotion that you get that is testing you in some regard. There can be boundaries that are necessary, or even moderation that's necessary, like thinking, okay, I'm excited about this project, but rather than burning myself out, I have to think long term. I have to slow myself down. you know, if you do not slow yourself down midway this year, the cosmos might slow you down for you. Because the energy of Saturn, it makes us play by the rules, which I know Aries does not typically like, but the energy of Saturn does make us play by the rules in terms of the structures that we are a part of, as well as the rules of this physical world, of this physical plane, the rules of our body, that we only have so much energy to dispel, that we cannot overexert ourselves or overextend ourselves. The finite limitations of our time, that we cannot be all of the places all of the time. Like the energy of Saturn really requires us to get comfortable saying, no, I can't be there. No, I can't do that. Or even saying to yourself around, I don't want to overextend myself. Let me prioritize my rest. Let me prioritize the care and keeping of my physical vessel. And I highlight that because when Saturn enters your sign from May 24th until September 1st in 2025, it will, from a house understanding, enter your first house, which has to deal with our physicality. And so you could find midway this year that you are having to get more serious around your health and around your vitality. Could have been certain issues that you just kept trying to power through because the energy of Aries, you don't like to admit weakness. And I do feel like that's a beautiful quality. I think that'll be important when it comes to 2025's astrology. We'll detail on that in a moment. But talking about the shadow side of that, sometimes you don't even want to seem weak even to yourself. So there could be an energy around just powering through, or around, oh, this is kind of sore, but I'm going to keep powering through, or oh, I'm not feeling good here, I'm feeling low energy, but I'm going to keep powering through, I'm going to keep powering through, I'm going to keep powering through. Even powering through has its limits, and Saturn makes us recognize our limits. And so you could find that midway this year, you are having to get more serious around your health in some regard, around your physical vessel. Now, you can leverage this healthfully. This could also show up around you get more into bodybuilding. You see with Saturn in first house, you could have more discipline when it comes to the care and keeping of your body, which yes, could be discipline to go to the gym and all of that, but also the discipline to slow down, to rest, honor the limits of our physical vessel. And Saturn is about time. So it could also just be acknowledging whether it's coming through in your physical body or in your style and your aesthetic. It could be this recognition of time around, I'm getting older. And as I get older, my style needs to evolve as well. Or maybe my practices around how it is that I take care of myself needs to evolve. And the emphasis of Saturn is really thinking of things that stand the test of time. So it's not a time of shortcuts and crash diets and investing money in clothes that will no longer be in style by the end of the year. The energy of Saturn is around really thinking long term, thinking more so of timeless styles when it comes to your aesthetic, thinking of more so practices of caring for your physicality that will be sustainable within the long term. And even if this doesn't show up to a body or health level, you could feel this echo into other elements of your life, this need for boundaries, this need to get clear, this need to work on something with the energy of Saturn. Because first house is also self. So sometimes we do rise up as a leader in some regard. We are asked to be a little bit more responsible, to step into leadership in a certain dimension. That absolutely could be part of your journey. You could become a parent, you could become a boss, you could have these responsibilities that make you be a little bit more serious and think a little bit more long term when it comes to your decisions. And even if you don't step into those identities fully this year, it could be something you're really thinking about, like really thinking about, do I want to be a parent? Do I want to invest my energy here? Do I want to move even? I see that some Aries could be moving, which again can require very Saturnian lens. Saturn energy makes us get very serious, right? Makes us think long term. Where is it that I want to move? What do I have to have aligned within my life so that I can move? Like some of you could be making some major lifey decisions this year. And Saturn entering your sign mid-year could be this energy of really shifting this perspective around what it is that you want to stand the test of time. As well as just feeling the effects of time. Time is going by. Time is of the essence. Like Saturn energy can also make that very clear. Saturn energy can really make us feel like we're fist fighting with time, whether it's getting clear on our own age and that time is going by and that we need to put certain things into alignment in order to make certain things happen. It could make us aware that time is going by when it comes to our family members with Jupiter in the fourth house, or when it comes to your aspirations to have a family. But it can also just make us feel like we're fist fighting time from every angle. Fist fighting time in order to get everything done. Fist fighting time in order to have the discipline to show up for our own rituals and and routines, which, like I said, I do see that midway this year, a lot of you could get a lot more serious about your fitness around your grooming, but you will hit this wall around trying to do it all. Like Saturn energy really makes you look at, where is my time going? And how can I ensure that I'm showing up for the things that matter, the things that will stand the test of time, or at least the things that will move me in a positive direction? And how can I say no to places where I do not want to invest my time? Saturn energy can make us confront limitations, and thus boundaries are necessary mid-year. You cannot be all of the places. You cannot say yes to this party and also wake up for your workout. You cannot have a child and have this promotion at the same time. Like, life is a series of drawbacks. If you invest energy one place, you can't give it to this particular place. And Saturn energy will really make you look at that. Again, if you try to juggle everything, you'll find that you're doing a lot of things and none of them particularly well. And Saturn energy in the first house can be burnout energy. You also have your ruler starting the year with it retrograde. So it's really important this year to get very clear, to get very organized on where your time is going, what responsibilities you are up for, what responsibilities you are saying no to. It's important to get clear that you cannot do it all and be it all, and to be clear with saying that you cannot do it all or be it all to other people. And it's important to arise to this new level of your life, this new level of leadership and responsibility, and thinking long term for what it is that you truly desire out of this experience. And I know what you're thinking, Aries. You're thinking, Haley, Comet, this sounds so boring. Are you kidding me? Like, in 2025, I have to think long term. I have to be responsible. I have to say no to things. I gotta hit the gym, or however it is that you're feeling inclined to show up for your physical vessel. Yes, Saturn energy can be annoying. It can make us feel more burdened. It can make life even feel a little bit more blah mid-year. But what I will say is interesting about your 2025's astrology is that Saturn is not the only planet making its way through your first house of self-identity and appearance. We also have Neptune there. So Neptune will enter your sign from March 30th until October 22nd. So both of these planets kind of dip into Aries and then they retrograde back into Pisces. So it's like, do I want this new beginning? Should I return back to where I've been? What loose ends do I need to tie up in order to step into this new beginning? You could feel a little bit of that back and forth within your world as well. But when I detail Neptune, you will notice that this energy is much different than Saturn energy. I mean, they literally could not be more different. Whereas Saturn defines the bounds very clearly, Neptune blurs them. Saturn is about reality, Neptune is about fantasy, and you've got both in your sign, Aries. So there is an ask within 2025 to really balance both these energies. Now, the call to balance both of them might be the most potent and the most alive, really, when we get into like July, August, because they get very close in degrees. They don't officially align or conjoin and start a new cycle until February of 2026, but they get very close within 2025. And one thing's for certain, you will feel these opposing energies, dueling energies in a sense. It's not literally, but they're just asking for very different things from you. So let's break down Neptune. Neptune is the planet of illusion, delusion, and confusion. And with Neptune dipping into your sign and your first house this year, there could be elements of yourself that you are confused by, elements of your life that you feel a little lost in the sauce about, as well as ways of other people responding to you that don't feel necessarily congruent with your iteration of reality. And this is what's interesting about Saturn and Neptune is, like I said, with Saturn in your sign, a lot of you are stepping this leadership energy, whether you're literally being promoted or stepping into a leadership role, or you could just be somebody within your friend group, within your community, who's being asked to inspire and empower in some sort of regard. And Saturn energy can sometimes make us be a little bit of the bad guy. Not that you are the bad guy, but it makes us say no, have limits, be responsible. And it's important to know that when you step into that, when you say no to people, places, or things, you cannot control the narrative that they will spin about you or how it is that they see you. You know, Aries as a sign is very much to thine own self be true energy. Like, you are very true to yourself, you are very authentic. This is very important. But in the year 2025, there can be elements of confusion because it feels that the ways that other people are responding to you are not necessarily congruent with how it is that you see yourself. That's what's important for you to understand this year, Aries, is that you cannot control how people perceive you. Because I'll be forthright, a lot of people are going to misunderstand you this year. A lot of people are going to project things onto you. And that's where it's so important, and Saturn energy is actually going to help you with this, to live in integrity with who it is that you are. To know that you are not the sum of what people say about you or assume about you. To live in alignment with your own truth, and to know that you cannot control the narrative that other people spin about you. When it comes to having Saturn in your sign, sometimes you do have to be the bad guy. You have to say no. You have to be the boss. You have to be responsible. And with the energy of Neptune also floating through your first house, you're needing to put your foot down in certain arenas could spur rumors or gossip or a certain amount of mystery around you. That's the very nature of Neptune, is that it's foggy and it's entering the first house. So people are not going to see you clearly. Particularly if you have Aries placements at 0 degrees, 1 degrees, or 2 degrees, you will have a Neptune conjunction to your Aries placements this year. And Neptune governs screens, mirrors, cameras. So yes, it does typically encase you and even your physicality with this degree of mystery, of mystique, allure. You could have more of a spotlight on you, more people talking about you. You could be more photogenic. You could even be taking photos yourself. You could be wanting to get in front of a camera. Something of that nature can be par for the course here. But the energy of Neptune, it is around projections. It's that illusion energy. Like a photo shoot is not reality. There's lighting, there's shadows, there's ways that we can manipulate in order to control how things are seen. It's not real. And so sometimes when we have Neptune in the first house, yes, we can benefit from this more imaginary, dreamy energy, but there can also be confusion. And this could be particularly infuriating for you, Aries, because you as a sign are very forthright. You're very straight up. You don't fake the funk with anybody. But there can be an energy where your actions or even yourself is being misunderstood. People could assume a lot about you. Neptune is projection energy. People do not see you as you are, they see you as they are, and particularly when Neptune energy is alive. You could find that people are assuming things about you that you're like, dang, how did I possibly give that impression? And if you battle against it, if you feel like it's your job to write the narrative to make sure that you're perceived favorably by every single person, you will exhaust yourself, and you can't afford to be exhausted. You've got your ruler retrograde at the beginning of the year and Saturn in your sign midway through the year. So you are going to exhaust yourself trying to control how other people receive you. Understand that you cannot. And with the energy of Neptune first house, other sides of this is that you could just be feeling confused around who you are and what it is that you want. And again, with Saturn also in this sign, you could feel this pressure around needing to get clear around these certain long-term decisions. But the energy of Neptune, you could just feel lost and confused. I think a Neptune energy is like kaleidoscope energy, where you could be looking at it and so certain that it's this, and then it turns and all the colors are something different. Like sometimes Neptune energy can make us feel like that, because it's like in one moment being like, yes, I want to move to Denver. And then in the next moment being like, oh, but Palm Springs would be good too. Or being like, I want to have children for sure. And then in the next moment being like, oh, I'm not so sure. Like typically being in Aries, you are somebody who is very like headstrong and forthright. And you can find when Neptune dips into your first house, there is this element around, yes, seeing possibilities and potentials out in the world. You know, this could be a very cinematic, beautiful, inspired transit, but also potentially feeling overwhelmed by all the fractals of possibility and potentials that are catching your attention, and maybe even feeling confused around what it is that you really want, which is hard because then you have Saturn there, which is like, what do you want? Neptune's energy, like, there's so many possibilities and potentials. So it's an interesting balance to navigate. And this could also impact your physicality. Like with Neptune energy, there could be weird symptoms that you are experiencing. There could be unexplained weight gain, unexplained weight loss, or unexplained shifts within your physicality. Saturn energy midway through the year would empower you to strive to get clear on these symptoms that you are experiencing. Neptune could be escapist energy, so you could be wanting to avoid and escape and not deal with these problems within your health, but the energy of Saturn can be consequences energy, so I would encourage you to strive to get clear on what comes up during this time. Neptune energy can also be very glamorous, so a lot of you can absolutely have this glow up energy. You know, Neptune energy just kind of bathes us in this otherworldly light. Like some of the most photogenic people on this planet have Neptune within the first house. And again, they can be photographed well, they can also view the world through a more cinematic lens. And you benefit both ways when Neptune's in the first house, both the lens by which you view the world and the lens by which you are received. You could find that your style goes through this more otherworldly, ethereal shift. You could get more into makeup, you can get more into clothes and hair and really losing yourself in a certain persona. Again, you're always true to you. You're an Aries, but the energy of Neptune could be wanting to play with make-believe, wanting to play with fantasy, and that could come through within your physicality. That could also come through within your creativity or other arenas of life. But when it comes to your appearance, I do want to let you know that Neptune energy can distort. You know, Neptune governs mirrors, and Neptune could be like funhouse mirror energy. And it's important not to look at a funhouse mirror and think that's really what we look like, especially if we are contemplating long-term drastic measures. So with that being said, Neptune in your first house would not be my go-to transit for any sort of plastic surgery that you want to have done. And my reason for that is that we tend to get very confused on what we actually look like. This can be a transit in which we are distorting our body. So we can find that if we take some sort of drastic, serious measure, we can find that it's bottomless, right? With Neptune energy, now I want this done, now I want this done. Or you could even find that you don't recognize yourself, or it's not addressing what was really bothering you, or you thought it was going to fix something and it didn't. It just tends to be very confusing energy when it comes to long-term shifts. Now, play with your style, play with your aesthetic, do all of that. But if you randomly find that from March to October of this year, you suddenly have this desire to get all this plastic surgery and that has not been part of what you wanted prior to that point, I would hold off. I would hold off. If you do want a procedure done, you've been dreaming about it, you've been wanting it, I would encourage you to potentially grab hold of the beginning portion of this year or the end of this year. Because when Neptune enters Aries next year, it does so for some time. So if there's something that you for sure want done sooner rather than later, and it's already been part of what you want, what you desire, and you're clear on it, maybe looking for the periods of time that Neptune's not in the first house. Because with Neptune in the first house, we just can feel confused on who we are and what we look like. And Neptune energy can be Siren's energy, where it makes us want to escape and fantasize and dream more. But Saturn energy is keeping you very grounded within reality. So what I would encourage for you, Aries, this year is really seeing where it is that you can bring your dreams into reality. I won't lie to you, when Saturn's in your sign, it requires a lot of hard work. It requires a lot of discipline. But with the energy of the 2 in your first house, this can be a time of making your fantasies real, backed by hard work. And I would just encourage you not to go too much to the Neptune side of things around living in fantasy or even treating your body quite poorly by overdoing any sort of drugs or any sort of drinking or things of that nature. That's also very Neptunian. Stay very rooted within reality, or else the Saturn transit will be very uncomfortable for you, because Saturn energy tends to be consequences energy. So if we're living in fantasy, we're overdoing it, and we're not paying attention to our body, and we're not paying attention to our limits, Saturn energy can be not the most pleasant, and I want you to avoid that. And see wherever possible you can arise to even new levels of responsibility or leadership as a spiritual leader. I see that some of you could really be stepping up as someone who can lead and inspire others to a spiritual level. Neptune's very spiritual. This could also be you stepping into a degree of leadership when it comes to an altruistic measure, or you could really step into your heart space when it comes to being a leader within your career or something of that nature. You can really fuse these energies to your benefit. But just know that when you arise to new levels of responsibility and leadership, people are going to have something to say. People are going to have something to say, and people might misunderstand you. People might assume you're this and that. People might say this about your decision, say this about your decision. Like, it's not saying that you can't listen to their criticism, but I don't want you to get lost in this whirlpool of what people are projecting onto you and assuming about you with Neptune in the first house. Stay in alignment with your own integrity and know that you will not be liked by everyone or well received by everyone. And there could be certain dynamics, again, with family. We'll talk about Jupiter in the 4th house. With friends, we'll talk about Pluto in your 11th house, where you are misunderstood, where people assume things about you, and it could be quite frustrating. But with the energy of Saturn, you need to rest easy in knowing that you know who it is that you are and having integrity with who it is that you are. So adding to this ongoing story of what's alive within your year ahead, we want to look to your ruler. So you are ruled by Mars, the planet of action, assertion, and advocacy. So figuring out what Mars is doing in 2025 is a great way to figure out what you are doing in 2025. Now, we start the year with your ruling planet retrograde. Now, I did do a detailed video on this particular transit. I will link it above as well as below. But I want to highlight that even the energetic of starting the calendar year with your ruling planet retrograde kind of like echoes that theme that I was talking about around Saturn and Neptune kind of like dipping into your first house, your sign, and then dipping back, where there just could be an interesting energy alive this year around having like one foot in your new era and one foot in your old era, one foot in new beginnings, one foot in closing out cycles of endings. Like there could just be kind of this back and forth energy, because even when we think about retrograde, it is around, you know, completing the incomplete. It is around minding what is ongoing. Now, it's worth saying that astrologically speaking, calendar years don't have that much degree of significance. The year actually begins when the sun ingresses into Aries, your sign. That's when we consider the astrological new year. But I think starting the year with Mars retrograde also kind of echoes that theme of really needing to mind your limits, because with your ruling planet retrograde, it is a time to go slow. And that's not what Aries likes to do. You guys like to go fast. You're the first sign of the zodiac. You like things to happen yesterday. And this year may be off to a little bit of a slower start for you. But I think of retrograde energy, because it is internal, it is a pullback. I think of it as like pulling a bow before you shoot an arrow around. Try not to get frustrated or impatient if this year gets off to a slower start, because it could be preparing you to soar. Because like I said, there are some major shifts coming your way with these outer planets entering your sign, with this eclipse entering your sign. So I just don't want you to beat yourself up if you notice that you start 2025 feeling a little bit more exhausted, feeling a little bit more drained, feeling like things are taking more energy from you and you just have less energy to expend. And this is hard because you're typically a sign that's very, very energized, but you can find as you start the year, you're having to go slow. Things are taking more time. I think of Mars retrograde as a time where if typically we have $100 of energy to spend every single day, we only have $80 when Mars is retrograde. We simply have less energy to go around. And again, you could beat yourself up. You could be hard on yourself around, why don't I have energy to do all of the things? It's a time to go easy. It's a time to go slow. You could beat yourself up around, gosh, why am I so exhausted here? Craving rest here, not as productive here. Like again, you can be your own worst enemy. You know, Mars is weaponry with energy of retrograde. We could use this weaponry on ourselves, right? Beating ourselves up, pushing ourselves beyond our own limits. And it's important to try easy, try slow would be the biggest thing moving into this year. Mars will be retrograde until February 23rd. It starts its retrograde in Leo. We have like 6 days of 2025 that'll be in Leo, and then it retrogrades back into Cancer. And when we think about where Mars is retrograde within your chart from a house perspective, it's very personal houses. There could be a lot of themes coming alive at the beginning of this year around your inner child, around your childhood, around what used to light you up. When Mars is in Leo, briefly, it will be in your 5th house. This brings the focus around, how do I like to have fun? And it's important when you are such a main character of 2025's astrology, it's important to allow yourself a character arc, right? To know that how it is that you used to have fun might not be always how you like to have fun. And with Mars retrograde, it could be this energy of kind of reflecting on that, around maybe you're finding that you're tiring of your party era and you're feeling inclined to draw back on that. This can be a time that you are even reconnecting with what you used to do when you were little, redefining what it is that you do find joy in. A lot of you could be rethinking your intimacy. You could be rethinking your romantic life, your dating life during this time. I do see early this year, your ruler will oppose Pluto as part of this retrograde journey. And so this could be power struggles. You know, you could draw back some of your energy from partying, and some of your friends, because Pluto's in the 11th house, might be resistant to that. They might want to peer pressure you in some regard around, what do you mean you're not going to this thing? What do you mean your priorities are shifting? You could find even that you're just not aligning with the same people that you used to, and you're wanting to call your attention back to things that bring you joy. You could find you're dealing with competitive or envious people within your circle. You could even find if you're creative, people are trying to like bite your style or things of that nature. And there is a desire to enjoy your dreams as you build them. with Mars opposite Pluto in the 11th house, there can be an energy around where things have kind of like snowballed out of control, and just recognizing if I don't reclaim my sense of fun and joy and have joy right now, it's not awaiting me at the next promotion, at the next milestone. Like I need to have fun on this journey of getting what it is that I want, because it'll never be enough if I'm continually living for the next thing and tomorrow and tomorrow and the next thing. And so Mars retrograde could be a reclamation of your fun, of your joy, calling it back from groups of people, communities, and friendships that are not supportive of it. And I'll be forthright, Mars retrograde can be a time of conflicts. It might not go over well with everyone necessarily. And then on January 6th, Mars will retrograde back into Cancer. And this is where it will stay until it stations direct February 23rd. And with Mars retrograde in the 4th house, a lot of you could be really contemplating your own processes around dealing with anger, and where those could have been internalized from your family members, where you are holding on to anger that was never yours to hold on to. There could be contemplations around ways to deal with your anger that is more healthy for you. There could be old fights with family members or landlords, roommates that are brought back up for review. And so within the first 2 months of the year with retrograde energy, it's a time to complete these loose ends. And it can be a time, rather than bulldozing into the next chapter of your life, you are a little bit more reflective. You are a little bit more introspective, contemplating your inner child, contemplating your childhood, contemplating your upbringing. Not to get lost there, but just with the energy of Mars retrograde to really reflect on how this shapes you, impacts you. And I would encourage you to do that, wrap up those loose ends, look within, go to therapy if you're so inclined, do have some 12th house energy. But I would just really encourage you not to beat yourself up or be very hard on yourself or set unrealistic goals or ambitions during this time. Just see where it is that you can go slow. Tie up the last chapters in order to step into the new chapters, because trust me, there's new chapters most certainly happening this year. If we follow your ruler throughout the rest of the year, we see that Mars starts in Leo, retrogrades back into Cancer, and then it makes its way all the way to Capricorn by the end of the year. And so what that means is that there is a focus on the western horizon of your chart, or from the 4th to the 10th houses. And what's important to know about the western horizon of your chart and of the sky is that it is on the descending side, which has to do with other people and relationships and partnerships. So there can be a focus on people this year. What it is that we owe to those that we are connected to, where it is that we may need to compromise, set limits, set boundaries with the energy of Saturn. What it is that, yes, we can learn about ourselves within connections, but also where it is that we can feel confused about ourselves as we share our energy with others. Of course, it's going to take particular nuances with every sign it transits and the times that it transits it, but I do see with it concentrated on the descending side, a lot of your growth this year can be around, connections, one-to-one partnerships. And again, pulling in those Saturn-Neptune themes, where it is that you are clear on where it is that you stop and other people begin. Neptune energy can make us take on other people's stuff or problems a little bit too much. It can even fog how it is that we view ourselves due to feedback from others. So while there is a focus on your connections, on your partnerships, on your one-to-one, it's very important to mind the limits and the boundaries that bring you back to your own energy. Really having those rituals and routines that bring you back to your own authenticity. This side of the chart, some consider the reaping side of the chart. They consider the more eastern side of the chart, the sowing, and then this particular energy, the reaping. So you could also find that there is an energy around past efforts and actions catching up. I think Saturn in your first house also echoes that. And whether or not this is pleasant is going to differ person to person, but there definitely can be an energy around past actions and decisions snowballing. And again, if those have been good actions and decisions in alignment with your integrity, really feeling the positive ramifications of that, getting certain rewards, or even entering into certain exciting milestones within your life. There can be identity shifts. Like I said, with Saturn and Neptune, you could shift into a new identity as a mom, as a wife, as a husband, as a aunt, what have you, like a new level of responsibility, a new identity shift. And again, you could really feel the positive ramifications of the decisions that you've made, or it could be an energy around the consequences of the poor decisions that you've made catching up. What we sow, we reap. Saturn energy makes that very clear. So Aries, to dial into a couple other transits in order to fully familiarize you with the themes of the year that you are stepping into, I want to detail the final eclipse that we will have in your sign, which lands on March 29th. In 2023 and 2024, we had the North Node in Aries, the South Node in Libra. Thus, most of the eclipses landed in Aries and Libra. Now, early in 2025, the nodes shift into Pisces and Virgo, which puts those signs on the hot seat when it comes to the eclipses. Now, you're on the hot seat when it comes to the Saturn and Neptune side of the story. But we wrap up what it is that you've been working on in 2023 and 2024 with the eclipse on March 29th. It is an Aries solar eclipse on the North Node. It lands at 8 degrees Aries. So if you see within your personal planets, which is Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, or Mars, or an angle, ascendant, IC, descendant, or midheaven, you see that you have 8 degrees Aries in any of those points, this may be a more influential eclipse for you. But even if you don't, even if you have nothing at 8 degrees or near 8 degrees, ultimately this is an energy around really wrapping up what it is that you've learned these past couple years and what it is that you've learned about yourself. And the interesting thing about this eclipse is that it lands in your first house. So ultimately it is a new beginning as it relates to your own visibility, as it relates to your identity, your fearlessness, your authenticity that is alive here as it's been alive within the North Node in Aries transit overall. You can get caught up on that particular transit. I will link it below. And this is the final kind of graduating eclipse. So it could be commemorating how far you've come, how much you've prioritized yourself, stepped into new dimensions of your life and of your growth and of your identity. But there's a 12th house component to this eclipse because even though this is an Aries eclipse at 8 degrees, it does align with the North Node in Pisces, which from a house perspective is in your 12th house. So it's a little bit of a bridge between worlds. First house is very visible, 12th house, it's what's beneath the scenes. So it can also be this energy in order to prepare yourself for the new sides of yourself that you're exploring, the new responsibilities you're stepping into later this year, the new demands that your life is requiring. You could also feel nudged to support yourself in the ways that people don't see, like the meditation practices, the spiritual rituals that help you step into these new dimensions of yourself or help you present this very fearless expression to the world because you are so anchored and so serene within your own soul. There could be like a nudge around that. Or it could just indicate feeling more fearless because you are connected with spirit, you are connected with God, you are connected with the divine. This eclipse does align with Mercury. So some of you, even in the year 2025, could feel inspired to speak out around something. You know, Neptune entering your sign literally the day after this eclipse. Some of you could even want to speak out around certain spiritual matters or altruistic matters or matters that are important to your heart space. Again, some of you will feel called to rise up as a leader with Saturn entering, and just with this eclipse alignment to Mercury, using your voice can be important. And again, there's like an energy around pulling from your inner sanctuary, your inner reserves, in order to show up for the outer ways that this world is nudging you to. And so the other eclipses aren't necessarily as pivotal for your chart. Absolutely, you'll have an eclipse story, and make sure to subscribe because I always do eclipse all signs forecast to get really into the nitty-gritty of what you can expect. But when it comes to the rest of the eclipses, we have a Virgo lunar eclipse in March, we have a Pisces lunar eclipse, and a Virgo solar eclipse in September. And I want you to know that this emphasizes your 6th and 12th house axis. So there can be a nudge to really be prioritizing your own spiritual connection, to be prioritizing your own solitude. Some of you could feel inclined to let go of certain elements within your day-to-day that no longer align or are no longer conducive to the big picture of what it is that you want to build. Like I said, with Saturn entering your first house mid-year, a lot of you have to get really serious about where your time is going, and the eclipses in your 6th house could also make that clear to you as well. Some other energies that are alive within your year. I do want to share that Jupiter starts the year in Gemini, which is your 3rd house. So again, there could be an emphasis upon social media, marketing, communication, sales. I do see that solar eclipse is by Mercury, so I'm curious if some of you are going to feel more inclined to write a book or start a podcast or something of that nature. You could be really, really using your voice. And maybe that's how you're leading and inspiring other people. You know, third house is also certifications, early education. So maybe some of you are teachers. Maybe some of you are learning a new skill in order to help and inspire and empower. But the Jupiterian focus for you shifts June 9th, where it will enter its exaltation of Cancer. And this expands your fourth house. This is a sector governing home, family, and emotional state. So absolutely, some of you could move in the latter portion of this year. Some of you could want to make your home more cozy, more relaxing, more of a sanctuary to be in, more of a place that's nourishing to you. A lot of you could be really prioritizing your sacred rituals and practices that help you meet the challenges and obstacles of your external world. I see this clearly with this energy concentrated here and Saturn for a portion of the year and North Node in your 12th house. These are very spiritual, soulful territories. So a lot of you could be getting more into your intuitive gifts, or at least finding that your spiritual practices help you rise up for some of the serious Saturn lifey stuff that could come your way. Again, it's like really prioritizing the inner reservoirs of what fuels and feeds your soul. You could be really prioritizing these sacred matters, what people don't see, but it helps you show up with more faith, with more optimism, with more meaning, really, with the energy of Jupiter. Now, there is a bit of a conflict brewing here, because when Jupiter enters Cancer, it goes on to square Saturn, which is in your first house. So June, you may feel this tension alive. And this has a couple of different storylines. So the first being is that some of you could get clear, like Jupiter in the fourth brings a lot of attention to your home life. So a lot of you could really be contemplating, I don't want to live here, I want to move. And while that's an exciting shift, Saturn is that pull around, well, I got to figure it out, I got to budget, I got to do something with all my stuff, like all of the responsible elements that go into a move. Some of you could be confronting that or contemplating that quite deeply in June. Some of you could be getting more serious in your desire to want to start a family around, I want to grow my family, but the energy of Saturn, that requires me to draw back my energy from certain places, that requires me to shift my identity, that requires me to step up and lead and be ready for that. There can also be an energy where your family is wanting more energy from you, or maybe something exciting is happening for your family, like someone's having a baby, but with the energy of Saturn, you're having to kind of set limits. You could have to set limits with family, draw back your energy from certain things, or at least enforce certain guidelines could be an energy here. Saturn, like I said, is mostly in your 12th house this year. It does dip into your first house midway through the year, but with Saturn and North Node for that matter in your 12th house, there is a focus around solitude as well as completion, closure, letting go of bad habits, releasing bad habits could be a focus here. Again, think of the cumulative sum of your habits. If you keep doing what it is that you've been doing, are you going to like what it is that you've been getting? Saturn energy makes it clear what it is that we've been getting. It can kind of make certain consequences very apparent to us. Uranus, which is the planet of eccentricity and rebellion, will enter Gemini. So even though Jupiter leaves your third house of communication, Uranus is soon to enter. So do know that there can be a focus around your voice and learning and communication altogether in the year. The tone of the two planets are quite different. Like with Uranus entering halfway through the year, there can be this energy to, advocate for the changes that you want to see using social media. You could feel inclined to rebel. You could start learning about something that's a little off the wall. A little eccentric. You might find that you're using your voice in more unpredictable ways. And again, I would empower you within that journey, but it's important to just remind you that the energy of Saturn is about thinking long term. So strive to be intentional before, erratically speaking out about something. There could also be unexpected events that go down with our car, with our neighbors, with our siblings, with our neighborhood altogether. Uranus energy, expect the unexpected. And that may be part of your reality, at least when Uranus is in Gemini, which is the case from July until November of 2025. There could be some very interesting events that come up around third house matters. The final planet that I want to give some more nuance into is that Pluto will be in your 11th house for the entirety of the year. Now, get cozy with Pluto in 11th house because it'll be there likely until 2044. Okay, so this is not a storyline that's unique to 2025, but I do want to prepare you with the themes, because ultimately Pluto energy is around transformation, and you can experience for the next roughly 2 decades a transformation when it relates to your hopes and dreams for the future. What you want for your future, what you want for humanity's future could go through some massive up levels. It's safe for you to dream new dreams. I want to say that also with Neptune in the first house. There might have been certain things that you wanted and then you get them and you realize this isn't all that it's cracked up to be. There could be an energy that as you step into and explore new sides of yourself, what it is that you truly desire for your future, more details get fit into that particular picture. But there could also be certain transformations alive within your friendships. People you used to resonate with quite a bit that you no longer do. There could even be power struggles alive here. If you do show up on social media, there is an emphasis this year, I mean with Jupiter, Uranus in the 3rd, Pluto in the 11th house. But what I want to say is that everybody grows and changes. But if you are in front of a camera or you have an audience or you're a celebrity, I mean, who knows who's watching this video? You just do what everybody else does with an audience or with a camera in front of you. And why I highlight that is that sometimes there could be an energy when there's a cosmic signature like this alive around people or audience or followers, whatever it is, missing who it is that we used to be. But again, you're stepping into new sides of yourself with Saturn and Neptune. As you evolve, your content will evolve with Jupiter and Uranus in the 3rd house, and your audience may evolve with Pluto in the 11th house. And so give yourself grace in trying on new ways of expressing yourself, of showing up, and know that when people try to say, oh, you've changed, it's like, we all do. So don't feel like you have to hold yourself back within an outdated version of self just because that's what people expect of you. Because with the energy of Pluto in the 11th house, there just could be a massive change that's coming in as it relates to our networks, when it comes to our community. And really, there's an ask to embrace it. I mean, if I were to simplify 2025's astrology with all of the outer planets and new territories of the sky, is that it's a year to embolden new possibilities, to embolden new sides of yourself with the focus within the 1st house. So this is truly year of the way shower, and Aries, you are leading the way. And I do want to share, Aries, that like I was mentioning earlier, this is typically a sign that doesn't love to be, vulnerable. You don't like to feel like a victim to life's circumstances. And this is a sign and an archetype that rises up to the challenges of life, that embraces the new challenges of life. And I'll be forthright, collectively speaking, the year ahead does have more than its fair share of challenges. I mean, we are stepping into uncharted territory, and the process of stepping into that is going to be messy. And I think it's going to be important for the collective to really not see themselves as a victim to their circumstances as well as to the universe, to the cosmos. Like, I think it's important with Saturn and Neptune entering Aries to warrior up. And again, you could be a leader in that regard around empowering others to rise to the challenges of their world, not to see themselves as a loser just because there's some challenging circumstances, to continually fight for what it is that we believe in ultimately. So my loves, these are the themes. Some of them might have scared you a little bit, and that's okay. You all do have courage codes within you, but it's natural to have some fear when it comes to uncharted territory within our chart and within the collective. But really seeing where you can get excited about what it is that you want to create, what it is that you want to initiate, where it is that you want to lead within the year ahead. I have crafted you some affirmations from my heart to yours based on the astrology that you're stepping into. So you can come back to these energies and really rise up to the challenges of your world. So the affirmations are as follows, and do know that I have made you a PDF that I linked within the description where you can save it. You can even print it if you want, if it helps you to see it daily. But the affirmations are as such. I am responsible for myself. I see myself as a victor. I know who it is that I am, and I stand within my truth. I am dedicated, devoted, and disciplined around maintaining the rituals that allow me to show up as the best version of myself. I rise up to the challenges of life. I am intentional with where I place my energy. I let go of habits that no longer serve me. I take intuitive, aligned action. When I get a nudge from spirit, I go after what it is that I am called to do. I lead by example. Every action I take is backed by my own integrity. I view the world through a mystical, magical lens. I see the beauty, the art, the cinema within my surroundings. I am dedicated to taking care of my physical vessel. I love my body and I appreciate it for all that it does for me. I look within to get clear on I look within to get clear on where my anger stems from. I make the necessary decisions in order to support my family unit and to support my well-being overall. I mind my limits. I am the hero of my story. So Aries, I would love to know, what are you looking forward to when it comes to this year's astrology? This is a fascinating one. I am quite curious to see how it all plays out. This is a fascinating one. Again, a lot of changes are ahead, and you, my love, are leading the charge of humanity into this next chapter. Thank you so much for trusting me to relay some of the themes that I see coming alive within your next year. If you want to connect further, my Instagram handle is @HaleyCometAstrology. My TikTok is the same. If you are new to my channel, make sure to check out my other content. I do all signs forecasts as well as a weekly horoscope series called Magic Monday. I would love to see you in the Cosmic Corner more often. But until we meet again, drink lots of water and stay cosmic.